The AP Royal Oak versus the Tissot PRX. Everybody's thinking about it, including you. So we are gonna do it. Welcome back to this versus video at Chisholm Hunter. My name is Harrison, as always, and it's been a while. It's been a minute since we've done a versus video, but you guys have been asking for another versus video for a while, so we thought we'd get to it. So today we have the AP Royal Oak, the brilliant, the beautiful AP Royal Oak, and the Tissot PRX. Now, for the purposes of this video, we're using my Tissot PRX because it was easy to get hands-on with, and the AP wasn't. So it is a green dial, but remember, you can get different dial colors. Right, so let's smash straight into this video. Let's not keep you waiting any longer. In my left hand is the AP Royal Oak 15500ST. That's the model number is bigger, but that's the start of the model number. That's all you need to know. That's the reference. And on the Tissot PRX, it is the Powermatic 80 variant with the green waffle dial. The AP Royal Oak in my left hand comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter and has a thickness of 10.4 millimeters, which is actually quite incredible for the movement that's in this watch, that's powering this watch. And it goes without saying that the movement in this watch is handcrafted genius, whereas the Tissot isn't so much handcrafted, but we'll get onto that in a second. The Tissot in my right hand comes in at 40 millimeters and comes in at 10.8 millimeters in diameter. Now, I probably tap out at around about 42 millimeters when it comes to watches. I prefer slightly smaller set watches, and the AP is pretty bulky. But remember, it is a statement piece. You're paying a lot of money for this watch. I prefer the sizing in terms of the case diameter on the Tissot, I have to say that because it's true, but I prefer the thinness, or the thickness of the AP Royal Oak. And the fact that they've got a handcrafted in-house movement and squeezed it into a 10.4 millimeter case, that's pretty mad. Both of these models, of course, come in stainless steel. Now, that stainless steel is pretty phenomenally brushed on both. However, the finishing on the AP is just so much better than the Tissot, and you would expect that because of what you pay for the Tissot versus the AP Royal Oak. Now, one of these watches, of course, weighs a lot more than the other does, and that's because of the quality of the watch and the materials used on the watch. For example, the AP has a gold rotor, an in-house movement, and the bracelet is a lot thicker and a lot better built, better quality, and you would expect that because of what you're paying for the AP. So the AP comes in at 173 grams. Now, there has been a couple of links taken out of this AP to size it to my wrists to get an accurate versus video, because we're also going to weigh this, which is sized to my wrist. And now we get to the Tissot. So that came in at 173 grams for the AP, and the Tissot comes in, this is pretty mad, at 131. So that's like a 40 gram difference between these watches, even though they're technically around about the same size. Now, you could say that the AP is slightly bigger, the case diameter is slightly bigger, but remember that the case itself is slightly thinner than the Tissot. So there's lots of contributing factors to each, but overall, it's just because the AP is better built and it has better quality. The AP Royal Oak's bracelet is truly a thing of beauty. Genta had the vision and he executed it perfectly. Years later, and we're still marveling over Gerald Genta's work. It's phenomenal. The light seems to bounce down a link every time you move it in the light, and it has a butterfly clasp at the bottom just here. It is absolutely a thing of beauty. I would say that either Vacheron Constantin, the overseas range, or the AP Royal Oak have the best bracelets in the industry, hands down. And now we get to the Tissot PRX, which also has a 70s inspired bracelet. Now, it's not as well built, it's not as thick, it's not as sturdy, and it's not as good quality as the AP Royal Oak, but for the money you're paying, it's around about £600. This thing rocks. It also has a butterfly clasp at the bottom here, which works pretty well, but it doesn't feel as stiff, as sturdy as the AP Royal Oak. Guys, I'm not gonna slay either watch in this review because I think for the money, they're both phenomenal. The AP Royal Oak is one of my grail watches, and the Tissot PRX, for the money, you can't beat it. I own it. I have this watch, so I can't slate it. Both of these watches have a combination of brushed and polished steel. Now the polished steel sort of accentuates the lines, the details, and on the AP Royal Oak, it's the angular details and the screws that it accentuates, and it reflects the light. I can't physically sing its praises enough. The finishing on this is unbelievable. Now, unlike the Tissot PRX, it has a circular kind of limited bezel, which is polished, which is nice, but it's not to the same degree of finishing, of course, as the AP Royal Oak. Now, you guys are gonna kill me. I can't, what shape is that? Drew, do you know what the shape that is? You have no idea. I have no idea either.
Octagon?
Octagon? Is that an octagonal bezel? I want to say it's an octagonal bezel. I'm not actually sure. If you guys can help me out here, I'm really bad with shapes. If you guys can help me out here, it'd be much appreciated. But that angular kind of polished bezel gives it really sharp lines, and it just has such a modern design, such a futuristic design. That's the word I was looking for. It looks epic. Another difference, of course, between this Tissot PRX and the AP Royal Oak is the screws on the crown. Now, this is iconic to AP, and actually I can't remember, I say the crown, I mean the bezel, I can't remember a brand that screwed down the bezel like this before AP did. AP made it a trend. And the reason they made it a trend is because the finishing quality on this and the aesthetic it gives is absolutely beautiful. And all the crowns, or all the screws, line up perfectly. It's an AP. Before we move on to the dial of each of these watches, because each of them are stunning in their own right, I just want to say a huge thank you for 25,000 subscribers. Guys, you guys make this watch community the best watch community on YouTube, and I have to say that. Thank you guys so much for helping us reach that goal. Our next goal is 50K, and we want to reach that by the end of the year. So if you could send this video to a fellow watch enthusiast, suggest our name, or even hit that subscribe button yourself, I'd be much appreciated. Believe it or not, the dial design, or the dial detail, is very similar on these watches. I don't know who pulled inspiration from who, but they're very, very similar. So let's start with the Tissot PRX. It has a waffle dial, the same as the Audemars Piguet or the AP Royal Oak, and it comes in a green color with a sunray pattern running through it. Now, guys, we're not gonna go into the color too much because you can get different colors of each. For example, you can get a blue AP or a black AP. You can also get a blue Tissot PRX or a black Tissot PRX. So we won't go straight into the color, but we'll cover more detail of the dial. The hands and the indices are in silver, and the date window is positioned at 3 o'clock. That's probably the only thing that I would change about both of these watches. They both have 3 o'clock date windows, and personally, I just prefer 6 o'clock. I think they'd look a lot more aesthetically appealing if they took the date window away or put it at 6 o'clock. That's just my opinion. When we look at the AP Royal Oak style, you can see that the date window at 3 o'clock is a lot bigger and a lot more bold. And actually, it doesn't have a kind of marker at the 3 o'clock mark, whereas the Tissot has kind of half a marker and then the date window. So there is a difference there, and actually, listen, everything about the AP just screams quality. It screams higher quality. The finishing on the dial is visibly better. But remember that there's a visibly bigger price for the AP, so I can understand both sides of the argument. The AP logo at the 12 o'clock mark shines in that glossy silver, which looks absolutely fabulous. It has Superluminova on the dial, and it also has Swiss made just at the bottom at the 6 o'clock mark, just to remind you that you're getting quality. Not that this isn't Swiss made, the Tissot, but the AP is just more expensive. Both of these watches have Superluminova on the dial, and this is where you can see again the kind of quality thing coming through. The AP's is just so much brighter than Tissot's. However, the fact that you're getting lume on the Tissot in the first place is absolutely phenomenal for the price. So it's just hard to argue with how brilliant Tissot is versus AP. Another little point on the face before we go into the crowns of these models. The date window is a lot more bold and big on the AP Royal Oak versus the Tissot, and because of that, it's just easier to read. Now, there's a silver lining to the date window on the Tissot, which highlights it, whereas on the AP, there's not really as much of a silver lining, but it's kind of carved in to the dial. It's kind of like a layer of depth on the face of this watch. It's really quite attractive, and actually I think they could have used putting a silver border around it. So actually Tissot, well in. The crowns on both of these models are actually quite different in style, and both of them can be seen on the Chisholm Hunter website, where we're official stockists of a ton of different watches, as well as a ton of different jewellery. If you want to start your watch journey, or if you want to add to the collection, make sure you click the Chisholm Hunter website link below. The crown on the AP Royal Oak is very angular, it's very sloping, and it's very futuristic again. It's almost like Elon Musk created this in a lab somewhere. It feels thick, it feels good quality, and it's very easy to turn, to unscrew, and to wind up that watch. Whereas the Tissot PRX's crown is a lot more smaller, a lot more dainty, and it has teeth around it, quite similar to a lot of other watches. And yeah, it's easy to turn. There's no complaints about the Tissot's crown, but I just think that the AP's is a lot more, I don't want to say high quality, I want to say futuristic. Onto the more detailed side of this review. So both of them have sapphire crystal glass. We come to expect that in the industry, especially when you're paying above, £200 now. It's kind of standard. Both of them have expedition case backs, which is basically when they have a sapphire crystal case back. And it's very surprising and it's a great thing that the Tissot PRX has an expedition case back because of the price of it. I love seeing into the movement. I love seeing the intricacies of a movement. And yes, it does have an ETA movement, and we'll get onto that in a second. But I love the fact that they're just open to it. They're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to cover it with a closed case back. They're saying, this is the reason this watch is the price, and you're getting the quality and value for money, and we'll show you it. The Tissot PRX can go to 100 meters in water resistance, whereas the AP Royal Oak can go to 50. And actually, I would expect more from AP here, especially given how much you're paying for this watch, the fact it has a screw down crown. I would expect more. 90% of the time when it comes to watches, it all comes down to finishing. How finely tuned is the engine? And that's what we're getting to now. It's the movement of each of these models. Let's start with AP. The movement on the AP Royal Oak that can be seen through the Expedition case back is the caliber 4302. This is a self-winding movement, of course, it's automatic and beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH with a power reserve of 70 hours. The caliber 4302 is brilliantly decorated, and you can see this through the case back. It sports the Côtes de Genève and polished angles everywhere. The Tissot Powermatic 80 comes with an ETA movement, which of course is the Powermatic 80 movement, but it's the ETA 2824-2. This is fully automatic, has 23 joules, and comes with an 80-hour power reserve, which is pretty unbelievable for the money you're paying. It beats at a frequency of 21,600 VPH and has a Nivacron anti-magnetic hairspring. I'm not against ETA movements. Actually, I fully support ETA movements. I agree with them. If this didn't have an ETA movement, you'd be paying £1,000, £1,500 for this watch. The ETA movement is the reason that this watch is the price that it is. A lot of the times, brands go down the in-house movement, movement. It was kind of a movement in the industry. Pardon the pun. It literally was. Everyone switched over to in-house movements because that's what they thought people wanted. And as a result, quite a lot of brands made worse movements than the ETA themselves because they don't have the years of experience, the years of innovation that created ETA movements. So actually, I'm fully for ETA movements, and I don't think this is a bad movement. And finally, we get to the price. So this Tissot PRX comes in at £610, which is pretty phenomenal for the watch you're getting. And the AP Royal Oak, which by the way is discontinued now, this specific Royal Oak, and it can be picked up in the secondary market, because that's the only place it's being sold at the moment, for around about £45,000. Listen guys, these two watches do the same thing. It's almost like having a Ford Fiesta versus a Ferrari Pista. The Ferrari Pista is handcrafted genius. It drives like a dog. It's pretty horrible to drive, but you're still driving. A Ferrari, you know the leather has been crafted, the paint's been done by hand, everything's perfect down to the last minute detail. It's a work of art. That is what it is. The Ford Fiesta is way more reliable, way more comfortable, and it's mass produced. Doesn't make it wrong in any way. With a big price tag comes a big problem. If you break or you pop a tire, for example, in a Ferrari, say goodbye to £3,000. You pop a tire in a Ford Fiesta, you'll be fine, 100 quid. Listen, I would love to hear what you guys think about this versus video. It's just a bit of a fun one today to see them side by side and to get them side by side, and also just to have more time with the AP because it is one of my grail watches. I don't think there's a winner here. I think they're both phenomenal. I think what Tissot have done with the PRX range is really impressive. It's insane value for money, but at the same time, the AP Royal Oak is one of my grail watches. I couldn't pick a winner. It would be like picking between kids. You never say, but you probably know who the favorite is. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching this Chisholm Hunter video. My name is Harrison and I'm your host, and you can see more of me if you want to see me, or pretty much more of watches, on the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram. Make sure you give that a follow. If you want to help us reach our goal of 50,000 subscribers, please hit that subscribe button. We are building the best watch community on YouTube, and I truly believe that. I'll be back in a couple of days. Not sure when this is going to be released. Going to Watches and Wonders, cool things coming up. I'll see you soon.